Identify yourself, please.
I'm Officer J. Bowling, Upper Merion Police.
And did you drive the defendants to the police station?
Yes, I did.
At the police station, what, if anything, did you observe or hear?
Well, as we were taking the people from the police van into the police station, there was a young man walking nearby.
Had you seen that young man before?
No, I'd never seen him before. He was later identified as Matthew Horowitz. And Mr. Cabot stated to him...
Is that Father Cabot?
Yes, Father Cabot said, we got some of those nose cones. We got him good. He was then placed in one of the detaining rooms.
Father Cabot, are you aware of what that means, that statement in front of the jury?
It means the fact that we got those warheads good, yes.
All right.
Well, actually, we're happy we destroyed them.
I'm just trying to protect you, gentlemen.
I think you're translating that earlier phrase of yours, pathetic mistake.
Objection, Your Honor.
It will be stricken.
Officer Bowling, at the time you arrested us, I think the charges were trespassing and mischief.
At that time, that was the knowledge I had. That's what you were placed under arrest for.
Right. And yet it says here that by the end of that day, we were facing 13 charges. And I'd like to ask, at whose suggestion and direction were those charges multiplied?
Other authorities were called into the case, sir.
And would you name those other authorities?
The district attorney's office, the county detective's office, and the FBI was notified.
And the FBI. And were you in on the conference that multiplied these charges?
Objection, Your Honor.
Objection sustained.
Really? Sustained. 2 charges in the morning, 13 by the evening. And this is the story of the poor who are in jail here, as well as ourselves.
And we suggest that these multiple and fabricated charges are for the sake of confusing the jury.
Your Honor, the defendants are not being treated any differently than the defendants in any criminal case.
Every single defendant in this county has their rights violated over and over again. The charges are multiplied. This is one of the rottenest prosecution offices that I've ever been exposed to. And for you to give your rubber stamp of approval to this kind of violation of constitutional rights is a disgrace.
Mr. Sure-Shot, I don't have to remind you that criticism of the bench and the exercise of its duty is in direct contempt. And I'm not going to warn you again, mister. Now that is blasphemous and could have been ended in direct contempt right here and now.
We had prepared briefs. Norm Townsend is sitting with me from Washington, and Norm did the brief on justification that we submitted to the judge.
It's very straightforward defense. It's not any esoteric or exotic defense that the judge would have trouble understanding. Had this been a case where somebody was holding the gun to your head and you hurt that person or destroyed the gun, you would have been permitted to, in a criminal trial, to say why you destroyed that gun, why you destroyed damaged property, rather, by saying that person had a gun to my head and it could have gone off. The United States...
Make that metaphor more precise. Okay, you're about...
Well, the United States has a gun at everybody's head in this country. Every human being living in the world has a gun pointed at its head. And that gun could go off any moment. And we wanted to be permitted to show the jury that that gun is pointed at their heads, that it's pointed at our heads. And it's not unreasonable for these people to act in a way to remove that gun, to destroy that gun, and to present that in a way that's codified by Pennsylvania statute. And the judge just arbitrarily, without any argument on the motion, without hearing from anybody, decided that what we wanted to do was totally irrelevant to this case. He would have permitted it had you been charged with shooting somebody or hurting somebody. You would have been permitted to say, that person was going to hurt me. And that's all that these defendants wanted to say. Had the evidence, I'm not quite sure what the judge feared. Was he so fearful that this jury was hearing this evidence would have found these people not guilty? If that's what he's afraid of, then he has really perverted the criminal justice system in this country. Because if he's fearful that the jury would have let them go, then what do we have juries for?
All right, some of you have an opening statement. Can I know who's going to open?
I am, Your Honor.
Outline your defense.
All right, Your Honor. There are clear questions we want to deal with in terms of the law. One of the questions is intent. If you find that our intention was not criminal, then you must find us not guilty. We will prove that we knowingly, willfully, and consciously acted in order to protect and to save the life of the human family. And that when we went into GE, into that plant, our intent was not a criminal intent. Then there's a question of justification, which means that we only need to prove that we entertained a reasonable belief.
Objection, Your Honor. Once again, she's getting into the law.
Yes, just indicate what your defense is going to be.
She's not a legal expert, she's a human being.
Thank you, Daniel.
She's being forbidden a human language.
We have GE employees, Your Honor, using words to describe these as products, hardware, shells, shields and shells, nose cones, none of which, I think, communicate the awful terror.
Objection, Your Honor.
We will be presenting evidence with our expert witnesses as to the terrible, numbing effect that nuclear weapons have on all of us as human beings.
Objection, Your Honor.
Objection sustained.
I'm talking, Your Honor, about a witness that we intend to bring before the court who is an expert on...
Objection, Your Honor.
We will be bringing in expert witnesses, such as Robert Aldridge, to give you information about the kind of harm and the evil that we were trying to avoid. We will be presenting testimony.
Objection, Your Honor.
From an international law expert at Princeton, Richard Falk, which makes clear that the principles of international law are binding in a Pennsylvania courtroom. We're arguing in Pennsylvania that GE King of Prussia and that the people who operate that plant are bound by international law, just as the German citizens and the people who operated the death camp operations during World War II were bound in principle to follow standards of international law.